If you clicked on this video, you likely already know what's going on with the 1.5 update. There are countless incredibly well written and summarized videos on this topic. What needs to be said has already been said, so eloquently by others, but I play Nikki too, I got invested too, and I too wanted to share some thoughts. This will not be a complete breakdown of the update, or the subsequent apologies from Infold, but rather just another person sharing their disappointments as of recent. Originally, months ago now, I wanted to make a video detailing just how special I thought this game was. I played day one and was ecstatic. A game of this scale was being made just for us. Of course the game is for everyone, but so many gachas feel not really for the girlies per se, and this one was. I have made a few TikToks on the game and have engaged with the community there, and the shared sentiment of this is girlhood, it's straight out of a Barbie movie. I'm reminded of when I used to play Flash dress-up games as a kid. It made me feel so seen. Of course, it was never a secret that this game was a gacha, and that it would involve pulling on cosmetics. Free-to-play games have to make money too, but I swear it never used to bother me as much as it does now. I really don't want to only complain, even though I will. There are so many fantastic elements of this game, and I want to praise all of the devs. I could never do what they do, and they absolutely want the game to succeed, and love it just as much as we do. But I think my quiet disappointment started fairly early. I started playing this game with the wrong expectations. I had never played a Nikki game before, and was perhaps too focused on the open world exploration aspect, since that was something I'm very familiar with. And whilst the worlds we explored are gorgeous and cozy, they do leave a little left to be desired. I was thinking open world RPG, and while it does have those elements, in comparison to other games, even other gacha games, the world feels quite empty. And samey? Whimstars, chests, dues of inspiration and material gathering is in theory enough to fill the areas, but part of me still longs for, I don't know, secrets, physical world altering questlines, and additional achievements. The areas feeling samey did not bother me at first. It feels like a genuine continent with enough differences to mark out the unique areas, but it doesn't feel alive to me. I think, and maybe I'm just being impatient, but by now I really would have liked to have seen a larger expansion. Fireworks Isle, don't get me wrong, I love, but I want to see some other nations outside of Wishfield Harcraft. More specifically, I want more mainline story related areas. I know they are coming, but perhaps I'm too used to other gacha games and their system of rolling out new areas. I just don't have any desire to explore anymore. I'd just be retracing my steps. Nikki is also the first gacha game that I've played that is not focused on pulling for characters. And because of this, I feel as though the emptiness of present Mirrorland is only emphasized, whereas in other games, the world is made to feel alive as we can directly interact with the people that live there. Know their stories, who they are, in turn learning about the world, and even taking them with us on our journey through it. Mirrorland feels still. Nikki is just Nikki. You can collect different skins for her, but you are quite often on your own. The outfits too don't really change the gameplay like character gachas. A lot of it is purely aesthetics focused, which I do love. I've spent hours in the photo mode, and the main gameplay for me is just making outfits, but the longevity just doesn't feel quite equal. The characters in Infinity Nikki that we do meet have potential, and I found myself getting emotional over some of the storylines, but I want to know more. I'd love to see an increase in NPC interaction, and just more iconic NPCs in general. The story so far is actually really good. I love the setup, but I need more. I play these kinds of games for the world and the story. I love anything fantasy, but it really feels like this has taken a back seat. I still love the fashion, and I understand that that was a massive part of what I signed up for, but there is just something about wandering around in your 5-star fit amongst the NPCs that makes me laugh. Where are all the other stylists? Speaking of the story, the opening made enough sense that I understood the gist of what is going on and what we need to do. However, the original intro implied that Nikki and Momo were swept away to this magical land from their attic, but who were they before? Are they not concerned with ever going back? Don't get me wrong, I love Nikki. We can learn a lot from the way she interacts with people. She is brave but also so kind and empathetic. But does she not ever have a breakdown about the possibility that her old life is gone and that she may never see her family again? Now, I know that some games are just meant to be comfy and cozy, and we're not meant to poke and prod and expect explanations for everything. But I would love to know more about her. Now they've changed the intro, I feel as though I know her even less. They detailed in their response that they never intended for the old Threads of Reunion storyline to be removed. but didn't state that they would restore it either. Rather focused on reassuring us that the outfit would be included later down the line. But I'm not sure about you, but this wasn't at the top of my concerns. I didn't miss the old intro out of fear that the dress would no longer become craftable. I missed it because that was the story I had played through. That lay the foundation for the rest of the narrative. And the new intro, yes, it is gorgeous and epic, but it honestly didn't make sense, especially logging in post-update. As this is my first Nikki game, I won't even pretend to understand the significance of the Sea of Stars, but I agree with others' sentiment that I don't think we were ready for it. It kind of feels out of place in a game that's still in its early days, and may have been better suited being added later on. Plus, if it wasn't ready, if there were so many technical difficulties, why was it published? But I assume this is more of a management issue and less the dev's fault. I also want to note that in the same paragraph where they barely touched on one of the largest concerns, aside from the bugs, they talk about the cumulative top-up rewards, which I want to touch on later, but like time and place, followed by a vague statement about general testing and integration for lore consistency. Okay. So many aspects of the lore are intriguing, and they tease us with very serious dilemmas, and again, it may just be the lack of patience, but I can't deny my expectations are quite high for the future. I'm so glad that we as a community are actively trying to and ensure that this game lives to see that future. But at this point, I'm not sure it's enough, especially if this is how they are handling such significant backlash. In regards to the co-op, again, for me personally, this was never something I really wanted. It is lovely, the idea that you can meet other Nikkis and other like-minded players, but it feels very out of place and underworked. I remember when they introduced the hourglasses, and honestly that made the world feel more alive. I could actually see what outfits others were making, and the photography felt more impactful. Not that you can't enjoy making nice photos for yourself, but knowing others are seeing your work, and they can even like it, was a nice surprise. The irony of the Sea of Stars being a multiplayer map, but also being a fundamental part of the update that drove many players away is comical. Even those of us that continue to play, I maybe see a handful of Nikkis in the area doing the same thing I am doing. Porting there, picking up rocks, doing the dailies, and then leaving. The co-op reminds me of Animal Crossing, in that you can see each other, move around, but do next to nothing together. The main draw for me is to see others' outfits, but I could already do that with the hourglasses. I will say though, hugging and dancing with other Nikkis is genuinely so adorable, but I usually feel too awkward to actually talk to another Nikki, and I don't know, I don't want to sit on the seesaw, so I just wave and close the game in a panic. Okay, now onto the cost of it all. Like I have said, I played a few gacha games, but I don't think I've ever experienced this amount of optional transactions. The amount of currencies, the bundles, the fake and illegal sales, the shake-up bubble jar, which is not an event infold. Spend money right now to earn another outfit, and if you pre-bought crystals or the daily gift previously, aw, too bad. Back in my day, we had to spend any amount in the store on launch to get an outfit. When I started the game, seeing that one pull was only 120, I thought great. They seem so generous with codes and freebies, but it all makes sense when you realise just how many pulls are required to complete a 5-star outfit, especially if you hit hard pity every time, and especially if the item number for the outfit hits 11 and could even surpass that in the future. But don't worry guys, we were only concerned about the fact that they didn't give us enough notice prior, which they vowed to do so going forward, and that makes all the difference. And then what? We have the outfit, but what can we do with it? Aside from make other outfits with the pieces and take photos, the abilities do not really change the game, and I wouldn't be complaining like this if they were not so expensive. The attention to detail in the game is next level, and you just know that so much love and passion goes into designing these dresses, the abilities and the set pieces. But I don't know, I just don't think the value justifies how high the pity is and such. We made this game a success. Players like us, and arguably even more so, the players that do spend. I just think it's disrespectful to continue trying to exploit those who do want to support monetarily. I understand that games have to make money, but when does it end? And don't get me started on the palettes and the dyeing system. We all hate that the palettes are per individual item, not even a set outfit. And I just don't understand why we were introduced to Stoneville and the notion of needing a license to enter those flower globes, just for it to have nothing to do with the dyeing feature itself. Did they forget that they had the perfect setup? Additionally, if you have so generously supported the game by unlocking all evolutions of the outfit, then you still have to purchase the palettes that you unlocked. It would honestly be nice to have another system that is separate from the gacha, like the miracle outfits, but I understand that dyeing does breach exclusivity of gaining evolutions. However, the dyeing itself does leave a lot to be desired. What individual sections of an outfit will be made dyeable, and how this changes with evolutions. The dyes themselves are just overlaid, with the original colours and/or gradients still showing through. This again just feels undercooked, which is frustrating as it was long sought after. In regards to the bugs, I don't feel qualified to speak on this. I personally have not experienced any real issues, aside from needing to restart the game for certain challenges, and I can't speak on this from a technical side, but the way this is being sorted I can comment on. I cannot believe that due to their mistake, players were able to get more stars and shards than they were supposed to. This was not an item duping glitch. Players did not know that this was abnormal and thus spent their time collecting the materials, only to be rewarded with deductions upon the team realizing their error. Just let them have them. They used their time and it was your fault. Also, they need a beta. It's not enough to just test things in-house. Leaks are inevitable, but they keep the game hyped. Little breadcrumbs before drip marketing, it keeps speculation and discussion going. Overall, I think this update is incredibly disappointing. An understatement, really. It has left a sour taste in my mouth, which has made me even more critical of the game. But I have to be honest, I think I will still keep playing. I stand by all of my criticisms, but for me, gacha games have unfortunately fallen into a system of log in, maybe do the dailies, leave, and wait until there is a big update. I never saw this game as something I would sit and pour hours and hours into in one sitting. There just isn't enough content yet for that. I don't want to stop playing this game, and hey, if another big, ideally less predatory company wants to tap into this overlooked market, I will be here. But I really, really want to see where this goes. I want new maps and new lore, and maybe it's the sunk cost fallacy or the fear of missing out, but I still have some hope. However, I completely understand and side with anyone who is now deciding enough is enough and that it's just not worth it anymore. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.